Alright, so what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be working on some boards for a shiplap wall in the basement. It's an accent wall. What we'll be using is white pine. I milled this stuff about 2 years ago. It was really high moisture, and where I was air drying it, there wasn't a lot of airflow, so there's some mold on it and some staining, but it's fine. It just gives it more character. So these are the boards that we picked out that we'll be using. We're going to run them through the planer. We'll cut one side straight, and then we'll run them through the table saw to clean them up. We're going to try to clean them up right at 5.5 inches. And then once we get them cleaned up, we'll run them through the shaper. We'll tongue and groove these, and then we're going to burn them before we stain them. I can show you an example. So it took my wife and I a minute to figure out what we were going to do, but once we burned them, it was pretty obvious that that's the route that we were going to go with this. Burning them really brings out the grain, but without burning them, the grain just doesn't really pop much, and they look just kind of plain. So we're going to go with the route of burning them. So we'll begin with running them through the planer. Way too full. Kid, did you make that big mess? You're doing a great job, Kang. Okay, so we got them all planed down. I went to 5/8 thickness. My tongue and groove bit is set for 5/8, so that's what we set the thickness for. So now what we got to do is we got to straighten them all up because they're all rough sawn on the edges, and they all are a little bit wavy. Not bad, but we'll straighten them up. So what I like to do is I'll use this piece of angle iron. It's 1/4 inch thick stainless steel. What I'll do is I'll cut one straight edge. And then I've got the fence set on the saw for 5.5 inches. So what we'll do is we'll rip one edge on all these boards. I'm going to cut all these down to kind of random lengths, mismatch them throughout the wall. But for the most part, I'm just going to rip these or cut these things down into random lengths so that they'll fit under my angle iron. My angle iron's 10 foot and all these are like 1410. So we'll get these all straightened out, and then we can move on to running them through the shaper and tongue and grooving them. All right, we got one side cut using the circular saw and the angle iron. So now we're going to run all these boards through the table saw, and we will clean up the other side. So that's it for tonight. I got both sides cut. There's the big old stack of pretty white pine. It's all 5/8 thick, 5.5 wide, cut at various lengths. Tomorrow I'm going to start running it off to the shaper and tongue and groove it. I got one of the bits in. I just ran one through just to make sure I like it and make sure that it's set right. And it looks pretty darn good to me. So we're going to call it a night and we will pick up where we left off tomorrow. Tonight we'll cut the male side of the shaper. Don't have a lot of time tonight. I'll try to get some of at least get the jig set up for the female. But we'll see what we can get done tonight. We got all the male sides cut tonight, just like I was hoping. So here's a big pile of those. That'll come up pretty good. And then I started fitting a couple pieces together so you can see this is what it's going to look like. What I'll do is I'll square them off. The ends get kind of goofy when you run them through the shapers. Square up the usable pieces. I'm going to cut these a little bit long, so we'll have to cut one side. What I'm going to do is lay these all out ahead of time. The reason I'm going to do that is because, first off, I'm going to burn them, so it's going to be a lot easier if they're laid out on the floor like this. The second reason is these are all going to get stained. And if I have to cut these after I stain them, we're going to have all these bright white ends. They could potentially be sticking up a little bit if the boards are uneven, so I think this will just make it go a little better. So, and then I'll flip them over and I'll just label each row, like the back side of them, like 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, until I get through all the rows. And I'll flip them back, I'll burn them, and then we'll start to determine how we're going to stain them. Alright, so now it's all sanded, cut, labeled, laid out. So I just kind of swept up around here. I don't need to be starting my barn on fire. I'm going to be using this torch and I will be burning it to make the green stick out a little bit better. So we'll get rolling. Alright, it's all burned, so now we'll start staining it. I'm just going to do my best and keep it as random as possible.
Good.
Okay, so we got 6 rows done so far. This is what we're looking like. More of the same. It looks cool with the lights out. Looks like a cabin. Feel like you got it. This is white pine. Like I say, the cool thing is I milled this tree, and then my wife and I ran it through the planer, cleaned up the edges, tongue and grooved it, and then stained it different colors. One thing I found helpful is get a pattern going. So what we started doing was like this red, gray, natural, brown, black, and then just kind of keep that pattern going. The lengths are all different, so you'll end up with reds here, but you'll get a nice mismatch out of it. And then the last thing I'll tell you is when you get up close towards the top, you're not going to be able to lock these together. So what I do is I cut the tang or the male end off of this board right here, and then you can just slide your board over top of it. So that's all there is to it. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching, and we hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe in order to see more action in our household.